Hi, it's Mayor Walter Sendzik, and welcome back to our home with Mayor Sendzik. I want to thank you for joining us. It has been a wonderful February, a lot to do. We had some sunshine, we had some rain, and yes, we had some snow, but we're heading into March, which means March Madness, it means March break. It means a lot of things that gets you outside, gets you out and about in our community, and really start to enjoy spring as it comes forward. Today on this episode of Talking About St. Catharines, we have an entrepreneur in our community who's doing wonderful work in helping to revitalize our downtown. As well, later in the show, we'll be talking about a charity in our community that has been giving back for many years. And really, it's just a wonderful story to show how entrepreneurship helps to build a community, and how through charitable giving and giving back is also another great way to help building community. And so joining me today, we have a good friend of mine, Adrian Kulakowsky. And Adrian is an emerging entrepreneur in our community. And it's interesting using the word emerging because since 2004, he's had his own Rental 101 company here in St. Catharines, Niagara. Many folks who have come to our downtown will recognize Adrian through a flagship restaurant in the heart of our city called Cully's, as well as he's got some other really unique projects that he's working on through the downtown. I'm not going to hold it against him. He is originally from Beamsville, now really investing in St. Catharines, but a graduate of U of T, and Adrian and I were just talking, and he's also an outstanding soccer player, although I've never seen him play soccer. Played for U of T, and he continues to play soccer. And really, Adrian, I think I'll start with the first question of, a lot of folks go away to university and then they don't come back. And you came back. So the question I would have, first one is, why'd you come back? What was the attraction back to Niagara?
Well, I mean, obviously, with it being my home, born and raised in Niagara, lots of family here. But from a business standpoint, it just struck me with a ton of opportunity. Toronto is extremely competitive, and not to say that I'm afraid of competition.
Clearly, you're not with soccer.
But I saw it as a place where if you have some ideas, whether it be in business or whatnot, really it's a blank canvas. I think I used that in my. We'll get to that after. But it truly was a blank canvas from a business standpoint. With a lot of opportunity.
And it's interesting because you started in the rental business. So you came back and you got involved in renting for students, Brock and Niagara College, and then you got into real estate. So, you seem to be always catching the curve on the right side of the curve.
Yeah, well, it's always fundamentally revolved around real estate.
Okay.
When I got involved when we started Rentals 101, the student rental marketplace in St. Catharines specifically was really starting to grow and was really budding. And there was a big disconnect between all the landlords who own these properties and students who come from out of town and aren't really familiar with the area. And this is really pre-internet multiple listing sites and all that type of thing. So what we did is we created a connection there, and then it evolved. I started getting into some real estate investments myself because I was exposed to it, but really it was about the opportunity of kind of an evolving, budding real estate market in St. Catharines and Niagara.
Well, and I talk about catching the curve because back in 2004, 2005, and I think if my memory serves me correct, that's when Brock was going through quite a significant expansion. There was the double cohort, which for viewers at home, that's where there was Ontario government got reduced the grade 13 requirement for graduation. So you had these 2 or 3 years where a significant number of graduates were coming out into the university and college space, and you seem to have gotten in at the right time.
Yeah. Brock had grown, I think it almost doubled in size, within the first 8-10 years of our existence. So, it was a matter of, catching that curve and really zoning in on that opportunity as to what was happening, because it was expanding and it was growing so rapidly.
And that's what, fundamentally, that's what entrepreneurship is all about, is looking for the opportunity, taking a chance and taking a risk, and it is a lot about risk taking. But then you pivoted from what would be the rental market, real estate, and as you said, you're still in the real estate business, but you saw something in the downtown. And I think take the viewers through the concept of how you got to Cully's.
Yeah, I mean, we recognized pretty early that, downtown had a ton of potential. And how it came about with Cully's was I actually purchased that building at 223 St. Paul Street because it had a student apartment upstairs. And we put our property management business on the main floor. That was our office. We kind of moved spaces over time to somewhere a little bit smaller because it's a pretty big space for what we were running at. But then downtown started to turn, and it was coming down the pipe where the Meridian Center was going to be built and the Performing Arts Center. I had this vacant space at the time. It was a matter of, we really are lacking some, although there's a ton of potential downtown, we're lacking some kind of fundamental pieces of the puzzle that I think could really fit in here. And the idea of, hey, we need a sports bar downtown. With the new arena coming, I had the perfect location, I had the perfect space, the timing was right, and our block there, previous to the PAC being built, really did a 180 over the time we were there. You really needed to kind of see the potential there, because it was a little bit ugly in certain parts of downtown for a while there. And we're not fully there yet, but it's definitely come a long way.
Well, I think, so you were a recipient of a Emerging Leaders Award by the City of St. Catharines at my State of the City address in January. And we give out these awards annually to businesses in our community. And it was an honor to be able to give you that award because you are truly an emerging leader. And while you've been in business since 2004, when you really look at the transformation of downtown St. Catharines, Cully's was one of the first private investments that coincided with the opening of these venues.
Well, thanks for the kind words, but yeah, I mean, I believed in it. With the amount of money that was being invested from, local government, provincial government, it was only a matter of time. And, there was some, city council believed in it. And, there were some naysayers, but, end of the day, it was destined to happen. I mean, it was, with all that investment, it was only a matter of time before some other things kind of came into place as well. So.
Right. And so what I want to do is I want to go to a clip, because the City of St. Catharines through the Economic Development Department, did a really unique series of videos, and you're featured in one of them. And I think it'll give people at home a better perspective of what a entrepreneur is really doing in our downtown and actually across our city. So let's look at the clip.
I have Advisors Realty and Consulting Brokerage, which is a full-service real estate brokerage, Rentals 101 Property Management, and Cully's Original Sports Bar. I've been in business roughly 10 years in St. Catharines and Niagara. It's a great place to start a business. There's a ton of opportunity. It's almost as though there's a blank canvas if you have a good business idea to springboard it here in St. Catharines. We're redeveloping the Lincoln Theatre building, which will be mixed use of restaurant and office space. Most recently have purchased the old Celtic Club building on Seacourt Drive, and we're going to be putting a new pub concept into that property as well. Hi, I'm Adrian Kulakowsky, and I'm investing, growing, and building in St. Catharines.
That's a great video, and we've been sharing that on social media, and really it does encapsulate what you're doing, and looking at it's not just investing, but it's the quality of the investment. So one of the questions a lot of folks are asking is, why the Lincoln Theatre? So you've gone from Cully's and you're pushing your way down St. Paul Street, again, seeming to be ahead of the curve.
Yeah. Well, a couple things with that location is, one, it was further down the street in the less developed block. So kind of looking down the road as to potential again. And secondly, because it's an old building with character. You know, we really want to bring that coolness factor out of the old building. You know, it was built in the 1930s, and it's really, there hasn't really been a prominent use for it in the past 30 years. Right. So, you know, we looked at that and said, here's an opportunity that's kind of a diamond in the rough to try and work on and have some fun with.
And from there, which I think is sort of outside of the box, is the old Celtic Club. Now it's on Secord Drive in St. Catharines,
yeah.
sort of
North
in
end.
the Scott Lake Street area.
Yeah, coming into the north end.
Yeah. Why?
Well,
and I mean that like it's an interesting story.
Yeah, I mean, the building, I am familiar with the previous owner, and he came to me with an opportunity because he was looking to sell the building. And first and foremost, I evaluate it from an investment standpoint, and you know, does it make sense? Yep. How can I use and leverage kind of what I'm doing and my expertise and my resources to put it into the project to make it make sense? And yeah, I mean, a vacant building on Secord Drive typically wouldn't be an ideal investment unless I've got a use for it. So having done Cully's and having some knowledge of opening up a restaurant bar and having the resources, you know, it was an opportunity to take the vacant space and revamp it and open up a new restaurant bar concept in there. So that's the idea behind it. Purchase the building with one partner and putting in the Grantham House pub in the former Celtic pub.
So the Grantham House,
space.
because it's located in the old township of Grantham.
Correct.
Which a lot of folks don't know, that the old township of Grantham goes almost up to what would be the urban center of St. Catharines. Yeah. So that's throwing it back to history. You've got the old Lincoln Theater going back to history. You've renovated Cully's, that was a historic building on St. Paul Street. You've turned it into, arguably, and according to my son, the best sports restaurant in St. Catharines. You know he's a fan. He's always there.
Yeah. Well,
with me.
with you sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to thank you for your investments. I want to thank you for your vision and for being ahead of the curve. And I think what people see today is that we have entrepreneurs in our community like Adrian who are investing. You're the future of what entrepreneurship looks like. So we're proud of what you're doing. And after the break, you're going to be joined here with Doug Smith. I know you're a friend of Doug Smith from Wise Guys. Absolutely. And another great entrepreneur, business owner in our community. And we're going to be talking about the Wise Guys charity, and I know you're a member and a supporter of. So until then, we'll come right back after the break. Hi, and welcome back to Our Home with Mayor Sendzik. Just before the break, we were talking with Adrian Kulakowsky from Cully's, an amazing entrepreneur in our community who's doing so much, not just with Cully's, but with other parts of downtown St. Catharines and indeed across our city. And he is also a member of a wonderful charitable organization in our community called Wise Guys Charity Fund. And joining us now in studio, we have none other than Doug Smith, who is one of the founders with his dad, Chuck, of the Wise Guys Charity Fund. Doug has been a part of the family business, and he is the president of C.R. Smith Financial Services, founded in 1974 by your dad.
Absolutely.
And then after graduating Wilfrid Laurier, Gold Golden Hawks, I'm also a Laurier. There you go. He joined the firm immediately out of university, and he has been with the firm ever since, and he is now the president. And he's also the chair of Wise Guys, which I think a lot of folks have heard of Wise Guys. There's events that take place annually in our community, and it's been around for over 28 years. Now, how much have you raised in the 28 years?
Just over 3.1 million.
So when we talk about charitable giving, Wise Guys and Doug and his team of volunteers, you're really the face of what it means to give back into the community, because you host these events, and we'll get into the different events that you host, but that over 3 million, that goes right back into the community.
right back. And the key word there was volunteers. It's a 100% volunteer-run organization. So it's dozens of people across the Niagara Peninsula who are rolling up their sleeves to raise money to be 100% rolled back into Niagara.
And so tell us a bit about how it started. So we'll talk about how it started, and then we'll go into the events that you host during the year. So give us the history of Wise Guys.
So basically, my sister was working for the YMCA, what we now know as the Walker Family YMCA. I have volunteered there for years. And she came to Dad and I in business and said, we're in a building campaign. How do we raise, what can you guys do? And we took a look and we figured that we might be able to raise more money than we could write a check for. So we ran a couple comedy events, but again, back in the late 80s, early 90s, there weren't as many charitable golf tournaments as there is now. Dad and I were both avid golfers and really wanted to run a golf tournament. And certainly he was the heart and soul behind it. The CAO of the YMCA cloned us Wise Guys, Y''S.
See, and I think that's where the name came from.
Absolutely.
And, all right, that's a great history. Okay.
So that's how it started. We raised about $125,000 for the Y. Okay. Wanted to continue what became a fairly successful golf tournament while spreading the wealth. And good marketing people said, you can't change the name, but we need to change the name. So WISE came out of it to be Wise Guys. We raised some money for a couple more organizations and then realized the best thing to do was really to become a charitable, a registered charity ourselves. So in 1997 became a registered charity. We take the funds in, instead of raising it for other organizations, we raise it for our charity, but again, to 100% be rolled back into Niagara.
And it's evolved, because I remember there used to be boxing matches associated with it. Is it still?
So there's still the boxing,
yeah,
absolutely.
Sorry, I haven't been to the boxing. I was in pearl gloves, but that's about all closest I got to boxing anyway. So you do the boxing, but the golf tournament, and then there was a massive auction the night before.
Right.
When I say massive, it's huge. Adrian, would you agree?
It's really great.
And that is,
there are some great
arguably
prizes,
it has some of the best prizes that I've seen in an auction event in all of Niagara. I don't know how you do it. How do you do it?
It, again, by far our biggest committee, the biggest one-night fundraiser of them all when it comes to dollars coming in, because we're not out buying things. We're getting them donated. We're packaging things together. Somebody has an in for a hotel. Somebody's, the airfare in GTA flies you over to Toronto, and then we get the tickets to a show donated, and then we get the hotel room donated, and all of a sudden, with a dinner donated, you've got a package for 4 for people to go, sort of thing. So that's really what's happened. It started as a tiny little auction at the CAW Hall, eating pizza, and the guys' golf tournament, and as you said, has evolved into not just fundraisers, but also events for awareness. So we hooked up with the St. Catharines Boxing Club, and really the boxing community came to us about 12 years ago and said, our community probably doesn't have a whole bunch of information on trying to raise money and be part of a charity, and I don't think your community knows a whole bunch about how good amateur boxing is.
Right.
So there's still a boxing night where it's solid, fabulous, exciting amateur boxing that goes on. The St. Catharines Boxing Club can raise some money, and they raise some money for the Wise Guys. And
then you've extended the brand to now include Wise Girls, and it's unique because you're now reaching a larger audience, because I think traditionally it was a guys event, the golf tournament and the boxing, but tell us a bit about Wise Girls and what has that meant to the growth of the charity?
It's been incredible, not just to the money raised that has doubled almost over the last number of years, that has doubled over the last 3 years, but also to the exposure to, as you mentioned, a whole new level of people, organizations. So we now have the Wise Girls Tea Party, TEE, a 100% woman-only golf tournament. Again, an event where most charity golf tournaments trying to get men and women in are averaging about 90 to 100 golfers. 144 is thought of as a sold-out event. We have 232 in the Wise Guys play a morning and an afternoon, and the women have 144 sold out with a waiting list. So some incredibly dynamic women approached us a little over 3 years ago, said, how do we get involved? What can we do? A committee was formed. My wife, Chris, chairs it. As she says, she's surrounded by 18 or 20 of the most dynamic women across Niagara. so many fabulous women that I mean the committee's amazing, and yeah, they've spread it amongst Niagara to a whole nother crowd that we didn't have access to.
And so, Adrian, you're involved, and why did you choose Wise Guys? What was the...
Well, how I got exposed to it was through some friends in my business group who are young entrepreneurs as well, who were involved with it. And I found out more about it and the scope of what they're involved with, and said, how do I get involved? And Doug was gracious enough to say, hey, if you want to get involved, let's go. And I've been involved for 3 years now on the golf committee, and then we've been able to run some programs out of Cully's downtown as well, which is a little bit of a new venture for Wise Guys, but it's gone really well. And we have a ton of fun doing it, so it's kind of the best of both worlds.
And that's what's great, and I think what's important for people to see is that you've got two entrepreneurs here, and you're surrounded. Your committees have entrepreneurs and business people on them, and you're coming together to raise money for the community. And for those who are saying, okay, where do the funds go? One of the hallmarks of a recent investment has been into a local park in our community. So do you want to touch on that? It's in the East St. Catharines location.
No, absolutely. Really, charities and or nonprofits, worthy causes can come to the Wise Guys, and I know we'll talk about that too, to look for grants. We raise the money we raise, and it's a board of directors. There's a grants review committee that reviews all of the grants that come in, take recommendations to the board of directors, and then they're approved based on funds available and if they followed and qualified through the mandate. The city park, the Wise Guys Charity Fund Park, was one where we couldn't donate just for land or anything else, but knowing that in conjunction with meetings with the city and a desire for a park to go in that area, we were able to grant out funds for the equipment, the children's equipment that will go in there. And it was really special because it was soon after the death of my dad, and it was something where it certainly will not be the Chuck Smith Park, but we hope to be able to do something where it will be in memory of him when it opens officially in the spring.
And it's getting close, because I've seen the renditions of the park, and it will really be a Wise Guys Park, and it'll be an example for young kids and their families to see the sign that says Wise Guys and think about there's an organization that actually cares about neighborhoods. And we can go through the list. There's a long list of charities that you've supported, but there's a special event coming up that I also want to touch on. So in April, there will be a roast for Mr. Doug Smith. And that is coming up. And Adrian, what can we expect? I'm not going to ask Doug.
Well, I think the roasters who are involved, I've known Doug for a many number of years, so I'm sure they've got a lot of dirt on him. I don't know. This is the first time we've done something like this as Wise Guys, right? So what can we expect? I think it'll be entertaining, to say the least.
That's where it's being held at the Holiday Inn on
Correct.
Ontario Street.
Absolutely.
And to get tickets, go to the Wise Guys.
Go to the Wise Guys website. There's also Brandon Curry, sort of the chair of this event.
Yep.
So it's not for me. It's for the Wise Guys Charity
For
Fund.
Wise Guys. You're just the blank canvas that
I
things
am
will happen
I am the
on.
blank canvas for the first year, and we hope to continue the event and roast others down the road. But yes, I think it became the easy target is probably a good way to put it. It will be, we hope to have a great crowd. Tables, I think, from what I'm hearing, are selling really well, and we hope to have over 500 people there. Men and women, it will be all done above board. It will all be done very, very well. Nice. But without a doubt, I will be the brunt of many a joke, I'm sure.
I think it's a fitting target that you will be roasted as part of the Wise Guys Charity Fund, all in good fun. But it also does show that you've touched a lot of people in the community, and you're known in the community as a successful business person, but also someone who cares about the community. So I'm sure that night there will be many, many good things said in jest, and maybe some things that will not be fit for air. But it's great that you're putting yourself out there, because a roast is never a fun thing for the person being roasted.
Thank you.
So just quickly, an organization's looking to access some of the funds that are raised through Wise Guys Charity. Where do they go? They go to the
Go to the website, there's a grant request form. Really, there's a really simple, there's so many organizations where the grant request can be very complicated. It's not. It's straightforward and it's pretty simple. The money has to stay in Niagara. It has to be for a capital project or a capital program. And we've done grants as little as $500 and we've done grants of $150,000. So there's an awful lot in between, and we love to help those organizations that don't always have a simple place to go for help.
Wow. Okay. So you've heard it here first. We have entrepreneurs who are helping build St. Catharines. You've got folks who are part of an organization that is giving of their time freely so that we can continue to invest and grow our community. And Wise Guys is a leading example of what it means to give back, to be philanthropic, and to have that selflessness of we want to make St. Catharines a better place. And so often when it comes to entrepreneurship, we only see the success. And I think what we saw today is Adrian, who is going to continue to be successful, but is still building, not just resting on the success of a place like Cully's, but continuing to invest in our community. And so on behalf of the City of St. Catharines, I want to say thank you, Doug, for what you've been doing to not only build the economy of St. Catharines, but on the giving side, helping to give back. And Adrian, thank you for your investments, your continued investments. And as a community, we're going to continue to watch you grow as an emerging entrepreneur. So it's been a great show, and I hope you tune in to the next Our Home with Mayor Sendzik. But until then, have a wonderful start to March, and hopefully March comes in like a lion so that it goes out like a lamb. Take care.